Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the desktop for another rules breakdown. And this week we're going to cover Cyberpunk Red. Now the rules in Cyberpunk Red are very similar to those in Cyberpunk 2020. They've been tweaked slightly, there's a few changes, but they are basically the same rule system. But there's a few changes, so anybody who's coming in from playing the Cyberpunk 2077 game, who's coming into role-playing just through this, will probably appreciate a fresh breakdown so we can go over exactly how the rules in Cyberpunk Red work. Skills in Cyberpunk Red are pretty straightforward. If we turn to page 129, we can see that skills are basically a statistic plus a skill plus 1d10. And you're rolling against a difficulty value. Simple tasks are a difficulty value of 9, everyday tasks 13, difficult 15, professional 17, heroic 21, incredible tasks 24, and legendary tasks, an awe-inspiring feat, is a 29. Now, if we look at the athletics skill, we can see that each skill is hooked directly to an attribute. So athletics is a dexterity skill. So let's have a look at one of the characters in the book. If I flip to page 413, we've got the road ganger here. So if they're rolling their athletics, they're trying to jump a wall. They've got a dexterity of 4, and they've got an athletics of 10. So they're rolling a 1d10 plus 14. So we can see from the difficulty charts that they can succeed on simple everyday tasks automatically. Difficult tasks, they need to roll a 2 or higher. Because if they roll a 1, then they re-roll the dice and they subtract it instead of adding it from their statistic and skill. So if you roll a critical fumble, you're rolling 1d10 again and with subtracting it instead of adding it. Critical successes, when you roll a natural 10 on your 1d10, you've scored a critical success. Roll another d10 and add to your first roll. If you roll another, you do not score another critical success. So, the road ganger's got a 14. We're rolling a d10. We roll an 8. So they have now got 22. So they have performed something of heroic difficulty. Likewise, initiative's pretty simple. If we skip to page 168, we can see when combat starts, everyone rolls initiative. Initiative equals reflexes plus 1d10. So, looking back at the road ganger, of page 413 again. Too many pages. Road ganger, so they are rolling their reflexes 6 plus 1d10. So they roll a 1, so they go in 7. And it's a simple matter of the higher you roll, the sooner you go. Critical fumbles and critical successes don't count on this roll. Now everybody gets 1 move action plus 1 other action. And that's as simple as it is. You get 1 action, you get 1 move, and that's all you can do. Now it details here what actions you've got, whether you've got wanting to hold somebody, use somebody as a human shield, reload your weapon, throw something, use a skill, maneuver a vehicle, etc. Now, combat skills work the same way as other skill rolls. If we flick over to page 172 here, we can see that range combat is resolved. The attacker's reflex plus relevant weapon skill plus 1d10 versus either their defender's DV determined by range to target and weapon, or defender's dex plus evasion skill. So, if a character with a reflexes of 8 or higher can attempt to dodge using their evasion skill and their dexterity plus 1d10, or the difficulty value is based on the range. So, for a pistol, if you're shooting at something between 0 and 6 meters away, the target's 13. For an SMG, it's 15. If they're 7 to 12 meters away, then for a pistol it's 15. For an SMG, it's 13. And you can calculate out, pistols can't shoot at targets over 200 meters away. Sniper rifles get easier out to 200 meters, then start to get more difficult again. And we've got alternate fire modes where the autofire DVs are based on the range calculated here. For melee combat, it's the attacker's dex plus relevant melee attack skill plus 1d10 versus the defender's dex plus evasion skill plus 1d10. So your target, even if they don't have an evasion skill, can still try to dodge out of the way using their dexterity plus 1d10. For damage, we go back to page 171. So we've got the various types of weapons here. We've got medium pistols, which do 2d6 damage. We've got heavy pistols, which do 3d6. We've got very heavy, which do 4d6, and so on and so forth. So we can go through sniper rifles, which do 5d6. Now, you're rolling that number of d6s, adding up the damage. However, you can also do critical hits. If we turn to page 187, we can see when 2 or more dice rolled for damage from melee or ranged attack come up as 6, you've inflicted a critical injury. So if you're rolling your 5d6 and 2 of them come up as 6s, or even if you're firing a small pistol and both your dice come up 6s, you do a critical hit. And depending on whether you're hitting the body, you roll 2d6 and add up, and you can get a dismembered arm or a broken leg, depending on where you hit. Or if you're hitting in the head, you're rolling 2d6, and you can lose an eye or get whiplash, depending on what you roll in that table. Now, Cyberpunk Red uses hit points, which are calculated if we flick back to page 79. Hit points are what we count to tell if your character is dead or just bleeding on the floor. Every character in a Cyberpunk Red campaign has his derived stats. Hit points represent the character's will to live and overall physical condition. You have hit points equal to 10 plus 5 body will average rounding up. Basically, to save you the calculations, they've got a table here. So if you've got a body of 8 and a willpower of 4, you have 40 hit points. Now, if we flick to page 186, back here, your wound state is determined by the amount of hit points you have remaining. So you've taken your 3d6 damage or whatever, and you remove those from your total hit points. And then you determine if you're less than full hit points, you've got no wound effect, but you're lightly wounded. The stabilization DV to stop you taking more damage is a 10. If you're seriously wounded, if you've got less than half your hit points left. -2 to all actions, DV 13. Mortally wounded is if you've got less than 1 hit point. And there's various calculations in there. DV 15 to heal back to 1 hit point, and unconscious. Gone from the world for 1 minute. And dead, 1 failed death save. Your wound effect is death, and you're never coming back. And the experience system, or advancement as I like to call it, is on page 411. If we go here, we can see the playstyle improvement point table. And basically this gives advice to the Games Master on how you should award experience. So you've got group awards here, depending on what your group has done. So, did they succeed? No, they didn't, but they tried valiantly. They get 10 improvement points. But then you've got the different types of characters, whether they're a warrior, a socializer, an explorer, or a role player. And depending on what they did, they can get individual awards. So, a warrior who frequent and effective use of combat skills defeating the most dangerous opponents in a given combat challenge will get 30. Whereas a role player, frequent effective use of role-playing to accomplish a goal, acted, not rolled to accomplish task. They get 30 experience as well. Now, spending that is the spending experience points. So, typical skill improvement. So, improving a skill from 1 to 2 points costs you 40. Buying it at level 1 costs you 20. If that's in your class. Now, difficult skill improvement is double that. And your role abilities cost 60 points to buy it at level 1, 120 at level 2, and so forth up to level 10. It costs 600 points. So that's a quick look through Cyberpunk Red. Now, if you've watched my Cyberpunk 2020 rules breakdown, you will see that the rules are very similar, especially for skill rolls and things. The damage is worked out slightly differently, and I have to admit the simplification of the weapons I'm not that keen on, but it does speed up the game a lot, and there's a lot to like in here. The presentation of Cyberpunk Red is fantastic. I highly recommend it. It really breaks things down easily, and all those nice tables and charts are really simple to look up. But, as always, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment below, as it does me huge favours with the YouTube algorithm. But, as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.